Welcome to another episode of the Wisco Fanatic Show, where we cover the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, and Badgers basketball and football teams from an optimistic and realistic perspective.
Alrighty, welcome to our Wisconsin Sports State of the Union show. Jake and I are very excited. Basically, since we came up with this idea, we're like, dude, this is awesome. And then we're like, all right, we got 2 ideas. Let's come up with a couple more and try to get 5. And then we came up with a bunch more ideas. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This is going to be fun. Why stop at 5 when we came up with 7 ideas? So essentially, what we're going to do is the 5 teams that we cover. It's in our logo. You can see it. The Brewers colors, the Packers colors, the Bucks colors, and you see some red and white indicating the Badgers, and there's a football and a basketball split on there. That's our logo. The microphones, that's where we come in. We're doing the talking.
Yes.
Now, we cover those 5 teams. So we're going to cover each of those 5 teams in 7 different areas. How close are they to contention? Perception from last year to this year. Organizational stability. Team identity. Upside potential / foundational strength. Roster reliability. And the fixability of problems. So we're going to look at each of these teams and each of these 7 aspects. Jake and I are going to combine ours, and then we're going to post them. And we're going to do that so people can basically play along. And I just assumed that we would start with the biggest draw, and everybody knows that that's the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers, and we're going to go through. So top down, starting with how we feel, how close they are to contention. Jake, start with the Green Bay Packers and tell me how close to contention you think they are.
So rating this out of 10 made this really easy, really fun. This is a great idea. Like every idea, it starts out as some little small, tiny idea in my little brain, and then I throw it over to you, and your big brain makes it into a gigantic idea, so we have an episode. And it's like, damn, how the hell did you get there? Critical thinking, people. Should practice it more.
And teamwork.
So for me, how I graded the Packers, how close I think they are to contention, I put them as an 8 out of 10. What about you?
I also put them as an 8 out of 10. If we're looking at where the Packers stand, seeing how close they are to potentially being able to contend for a Super Bowl, that is the way that we're looking at it for the Packers. Dan, welcome back. Looking at it for the Packers, where they stand as far as contention goes, I do think the Packers are close. And I think if we're looking at how close they are to contention, there's a lot of good teams in the NFL, and I think the NFL has the best parity out of any of the professional sports leagues.
Yes.
What I will say is I kind of doubt you'll find any 0s or any 10s out of Jake and I. I think that, well, maybe some 10s, I guess. I don't think there's going to be any 0s, though.
There's some 10s. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
All right. That's understandable.
There's no 0s, but there's 10s.
10s are more understandable than 0s. I really don't think there's going to be anything that's a 0 with any of these teams. Now, I guarantee when we post these, there's going to be people who be like, how could you say that the Packers are a 10 on team identity? I'd give them a 0 because they got bad locker room grades. There's going to be people that say stuff like that, so I'm really not worried about it.
No.
That said, Jake and I are pretty level-headed guys. Again, we keep it optimistic and realistic. So I think you're going to find that with us. Now, there might be some spots where the bias comes in, but we are the Wisco fanatics. We're not ESPN fanatics, and we're going to fuck Wisconsin.
Right.
So we are Wisco fanatics. This is going to be from the Wisconsin team point of view. So Jake and I both have 8 for our Packers, how close they are to contention. Jake, what do you have for your perception from last year to this year?
I put the Packers at a 7 because they still have Micah Parsons, but this one's rough for the Packers because coming into last year, we just traded for Micah Parsons, so we're like, oh my God, dude, we just got Micah Parsons. So we still have Micah Parsons, so it's still 7. I'm still feeling good, but he's coming off injury, obviously. Same thing with Tucker Kraft. So I'm still feeling good, but compared to last year, this one's rough for the Packers, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to top the feeling of getting Micah Parsons.
Yeah, that was a good one.
As far as looking at last year to this year, I did give the Packers an 8. in this with how I feel from the perception from last year to this year. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with the draft. I really, really liked the Packers draft class. I love that their first position of need was their first pick when it comes to Brandon Cisse. I love the Danny Dennis Sutton pick. I mean, the Packers, I think they did a really good job from last year to this year as far as the draft goes. Now, I will say, Jake, if you go back and you watch our shows from January and February when we were talking about how the Packers are going to handle personnel, specifically the wide receiver room, I think we absolutely nailed it.
I agree.
Comes to the wide receiver room, that they were going to let Romeo Doubs walk and they were going to trade Dontavian Wicks. Both of those things happened. They extended Christian Watson. They actually extended Jaden Reed too. So done some very good things in the extension rooms. And I still think there's potential more to come on that before training camp gets around or before the season gets around. Referring to a number 85 guy, but yeah, I'm still excited for the Packers, and it still doesn't feel real that Micah Parsons is on the team.
That's awesome.
All right. Let's go to organizational stability. Now, when we planned this segment, this one is going to be based on like the direction of the franchise, how we feel about the front office, the trust in the leadership. That's going to be the intention behind this this confidence meter. So, Jake, where do you stand on organizational stability?
So, like it has been our entire lives, at least the last 30 years. So we were shitting our pants basically when the Packers decided to become good. They've been good. Organizational stability from top to bottom has been fantastic. So I have the Packers at a 9.
As do I. And right next to my 9, I have Russ Ball and Goody written down.
Yep.
If we're talking about trust and leadership for organizational stability, and I'm honestly going to throw Ed Policy in there because I think he's done a really good job so far. I don't think that he's missed on anything so far since taking over for Mark Murphy.
Yep.
So the trust and leadership is very strong, pretty strong on the organizational stability. So, Jake, let's go to team identity. Where do you stand with the team identity for the Packers?
This one was the toughest one for the Packers for me. Because they have talent all over the place. Safeties, they refreshed the defensive front. Offensive line was something that will be heavy eyes on this season. Jordan Love is a good quarterback. Josh Jacobs is a good running back. They have talent all over the place. But the identity with coaching is something that hasn't been married as well as I think it should be. So I still gave them an 8 because I believe in the talent, and I think that LaFleur is a good coach. I just think that they should be a little bit more consistent than they are.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the coaching aspect is a very fair way to bring that up. And I think Matt LaFleur can continue trusting Jordan Love with more and more of how he handles things and putting the ball in Jordan Love's hands.
Yes.
And I think regardless of what happens with Josh Jacobs as far as the rest of the offseason is concerned, they're probably going to want to limit his workload a little bit so that he gets through the year healthy.
Yeah.
So if that, proves to be the case, then that just means that the ball is in Jordan Love's hands more. Not only that, but you also put a bunch of money into the wide receiver room as far as extensions go. So that is also going to be a part of it. And in my mind, that means that you're putting the ball in those guys' hands more often. For me, looking at team identity, I also went with an 8, and for me, the reason it was an 8 and not a 9 or a 10 is because the Packers are a very young team. It seems like even though they've gotten better, year over year, the last, I would say, 2 years from the previous 3, is they've still gotten younger and younger in each of those seasons.
Right.
It's truly impressive how much younger the Packers have gotten since Jordan Love took over at quarterback, and they continue to be one of the youngest teams in the NFL while still being a double-digit win team. All right. Let's move on to upside potential / foundational strength. Jake, where do you stand on that with the Packers?
So upside potential, I'm at an 8 with the Packers because, like I've talked about, the Packers are just loaded all over the place. I think, we haven't even seen like a fully unlocked version of Christian Watson, and that's terrifying for people. We haven't seen, and we were on that trajectory last year. We haven't seen a fully unlocked Tucker Kraft. There's a lot of things that we haven't seen with this Packers team, but that's just the wonder and the why, and it makes you think, like, what could this team be? They need to stay healthy for one season all together, because I think that they have everything to win the Super Bowl. But upside, this team could be the best team in the NFL, in my opinion. And I know that people are going to disagree with me, but I personally, talent-wise, I think they could be the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And looking at it, you talk about upside potential. I think best case scenario, I think Jordan Love is an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
I think Christian Watson can easily be a double-digit touchdown, 1,000-yard receiver guy. Jaden Reed is a very good number 2 option. And I think Matthew Golden, even though last summer I wasn't the biggest fan of the pick, I still think that he has a large shot at upside given the departures of Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. I do think when that pick was made, it was made with that thought in mind of, hey, we're going to replenish the receiver room in a good receiver draft a year earlier than we necessarily need to, knowing that we have 2 guys that are going to be free agents soon.
Yep. They did a great job. And honestly, Savion Williams is a guy that I don't think enough people are mentioning.
Yeah, that's fair. And he could factor into the backfield and into the receiving room.
Yeah, he could be a very interesting piece this season.
Yeah. Okay. What about roster reliability? So when this segment was made, we came at this with the thought of how durable the roster is, how deep the roster is, and then how consistent the roster is. So, Jake, where do you stand with roster reliability with the Packers?
The Packers, I gave them a 6. I think that offensive line-wise, they're not the deepest squad in the league, and the offensive line honestly struggled in run blocking last year. So they did, replenish the defensive line like I talked about, so they got a little bit deeper over there. But last year, obviously, that was a big issue with stopping the run and pass rush when Micah Parsons went down. So I gave them a 6 because room to improve, although I think they got a little bit better this offseason.
Yeah, so I put the Packers at a 7, and the main couple parts for me were the injuries to Tucker Kraft and Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a situation where we have to see who's going to step up in the absence of those 2. I do think, not that I think that either of those guys are replaceable, but I do think the Packers are a little bit more prepared to handle the absence of Micah Parsons because we're in year 3 of this. Lucas Van Ness looks like he's going to be a dude this year. I will say, on the subject of Lucas Van Ness, he did look pretty good the last, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks of last season.
It's fair.
He looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that for the most part, Packers fans seem to kind of agree on that. So I'm looking forward to that, and we both love the Danny Dennis Sutton pick. I would have been on board with taking him in the 2nd round, Jake in the 3rd. So getting him in the 5th. Reggie brought up Barron Sorrell, looks like a monster. I mean, we saw very, very limited flashes from Colin Oliver last season. So I think the Packers are a little bit better prepared to handle Micah Parsons' absence than they are to handle Tucker Kraft's absence. So that one makes me a little bit nervous. So I have the Packers at a 7 there. Mm-hmm. Moving down to fixability of problems. So this is going to be, obviously, they're all 1 to 10, 0 to 10, but looking at the Packers looking for all of these teams, the way that we're doing this, fixability of problems, 1 is like a structural, it's not an easy thing to fix, and 10 being something is clean and fixable, it's an easy thing. It's either just a minor tweak or just a change in execution. Jake, where do you stand with the Packers on the fixability of their problems?
I'd say 8, man. I'm going to keep mentioning it. The defensive line will be much better this year. They drafted well up there. They signed a free agent. So they seem to have fixed the middle of the defense. Hopefully, please, for the love of God, can Devontae Wyatt have a healthy season? Please. He would dominate. I think he'd be a guy that's went from who the heck is that to, oh yeah, the Packers have Devontae Wyatt. I forgot about that guy. He's a monster. Please be healthy all year. That would do massive things for our defense. And, just the run blocking, that is an X's and O's thing in my opinion. The run blocking gets better. You hand the ball to Jordan Love and let him decide a few more games. I think that's the difference between – and remember, I want people to remember this. The Packers were 9-3-1 and beating the Broncos on the road. They were beating their ass too before Micah Parsons got hurt. They were they were whooping their tail, and that's a hard place to play. And traditionally, the Packers are bad in Denver.
Yeah.
So they were up there and they were whooping their ass. Now it's a if scenario, but if Micah Parsons doesn't get hurt, the Packers could finish that game 10-3-1, looking at the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's a completely different outlook than how the season ended.
Yeah.
So the Packers' fixability of problems is an 8 for me because they have to stay healthy in some areas. But if they stay healthy, I'm telling you, this team can win the Super Bowl. They've built a very nice looking roster.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have 7 for many of the same reasons. And the number one reason that I have written down is health. Like, that's something that's kind of out of their control. So maybe it's a little unfair to give them a bump down from an 8 to a 7 for that. But they need to be healthy. And then the other one, we kind of talked about it already with the identity aspect of it, is Matt LaFleur's play calling. Like I said, I want him to have the ball in Jordan Love's hands more. And especially, again, when we're talking about the money that they invested in the pass catchers. And there's still another pass catcher that we're looking to have money invested into. So that to me is like, hey, you've invested in the passing room. Put the ball in that room.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the Packers and their confidence meter?
No, just excited that it's July 8th and we're about a month away from them playing football.
Yeah. All righty. So we're going to move on, and we are going to jump into the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to do the Brewers second because they are currently playing. So we're in the middle of Brewers seasons, and looking at the Brewers, how close do you feel that they are to contention for a World Series?
10. 10 out of 10. Thank you very much. They have one of the best rosters in MLB. They have one of the best records. They have the number 1 farm system. This team and Matt Arnold is the best GM that we have in this state. That's just my opinion. I think he's the best GM that we have. I don't think that Goody's bad, and Goody's had to deal with a lot of tough decisions for the Packers.
So has John Horst, for that matter.
Fair. But, well, yeah, as of recently, that's for damn sure. I think that Matt Arnold is the best. Yes. The Brewers were literally in the NL Championship Series last year. Now, obviously, they went up against the goddamn Avengers, so it's pretty hard to go against the Avengers and win, but I think that they're better suited for it this year. There's a number of stats that I could just name off right now, but for the sake of saving everybody's time, I will say they are a 10, and that's my opinion.
All right. I have the Brewers at an 8, and I feel like the conversations we had last week about some rumors and things like that, and 2 weeks from now we're going to be doing the trade deadline, so I feel like there's still growth opportunities for the Brewers. And, we talked about the 2 biggest names that are being like floated that the Brewers should target, not that they're linked to or anything, are Tariq Skubal and Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
I feel like the Brewers can get closer to contention, which is why I don't have them at a 10 for how close they are to contention. Because I feel like with a big swing, they could get closer. That said, the way that the Brewers are playing right now, and you'll see it when we have our recaps coming out, they're an extremely tough team to beat.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like if the Brewers want to try to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, it needs to be with addressing some offense, because overall the Brewers held the Dodgers to 5 or to 4 runs a game for the 4-game series last year. So I don't think it was the pitching that was the problem. The Brewers needed some more offense in that NLCS. So I have the Brewers at an 8 for contention. Jake, where do you have the Brewers as how you feel the perception is from last year to this year?
I have them at an 8 because that team last year was also very good. And they now I'm going to tell you, I had this list made before they had back-to-back comeback wins versus the Cardinals. This number would be a 9 if I would have done it after yesterday's games. But, they're third in MLB in comeback wins this year. They have the most road wins. They have an unbelievable record versus above 500 teams. I did think that last year's team was better just because Yelich was better last year. But this year's team has a much better Jake Bauers, and Yelich still has the opportunity to get better back to the form that he was. If Jake Bauers is still hitting the way that he is the entire season, and Christian Yelich ends up hitting that stride that he had last year, this team could beat the Dodgers.
So one thing that I will add in is I think this year has a better offensive outfield, even though Sal Frelick isn't quite putting up the same number that he had last year, because Garrett Mitchell from Blake Perkins is a massive offensive upgrade for the outfield.
Yeah.
And I have the Brewers at a 9 from the perception from last year to this year. Mm-hmm. And I will say probably the last month or so pretty heavily influenced this number, strictly because of the Brewers not playing their best baseball and still winning baseball games.
Yeah, that's just...
And every couple days you see a thing where it's like, this is the fastest the Brewers have gotten to 40 wins in franchise history. This is the fastest they've gotten to 50 wins in franchise history. This is the most wins that they've had through 82 games in franchise history. And it's like, dude, they won a franchise record number of games last year, and they're still on pace to be better this year.
They might win 100 this year. This might be the year.
Yeah, they might win 100 games this year.
Hell yeah, dude.
So that's where my perception being higher comes in. Dude, if they do like a big swing trade and they get like Jordan, my answer to this would be like a 12.
Yeah, for real, dude.
like that's where I believe that they have that much ability if they want to go for a huge swing like that. Again, I understand, and we said this last week, that 2027 being very, very uncertain makes it very understandable if they're not wanting to take a huge swing like that. That's understandable. Let's go on to organizational stability. And again, the thought process behind this one is the direction of the franchise, the front office, and the trust in leadership. So, Jake, where do you stand on the organizational stability?
You can't have, like you were just talking about, all those records. You can't have, the most opposite field hits, best plate approach, number one offense, best pitcher in baseball, number one farm system. You can't have all that stuff and not be ranked at 10 in this category, in my opinion. They just have everything on fire right now. If they're playing a slot machine, every roll is just 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row. Everything is just working right now for the Brewers. So for me, this is the easiest answer I had on this sheet was organizational stability for the Brewers. 10, easy.
Yeah. I put the Brewers at a 9 strictly for Mark Atanasio, and I feel like people are going to put this one at a 2 because, the owner's not willing to spend money. Come 2027, it could be a non-issue.
It's a non-issue right now with the way they're winning games.
I agree. I think it's a non-issue right now, but I still feel like there were times where like they could have potentially. Yeah, and again, I understand that the Brewers are not signing Kyle Tucker, but like they could have done more than Luis Rengifo, in my opinion.
It's fair.
And I will say, and maybe this is the other side of the coin, the contracts that they've given to Cooper Pratt and Luis Lara, similarly to the contract that they gave to Jackson Chourio 2 years ago, I think it's a great way of doing business because not only does it give stability to those guys and you don't have to worry about arbitration or anything like that, but I think that that's a very good way to kind of start a foundation that you have built for a long time doing those kind of deals. And especially with as inexpensive as those deals are. Like you're looking at Luis Lara, he's making 7 years, just over $30 million. His contract for the next 7 years, you're telling me, is worth half of what Shohei Ohtani is getting paid per season.
Yeah.
And we get Luis Lara for the next 7 years. I'm not saying I wouldn't trade 7 years of Luis Lara, but would you trade 7 years of Luis Lara for half a season of Shohei Ohtani?
Hey, that's a great way to look at it.
I don't think that answer is a clear-cut yes.
I agree.
Like you're not trading a 7-year inexpensive contract for a minor league Gold Glove caliber player for a rental.
Yeah.
So doing those kind of deals, I think, gives the Brewers some very, very interesting flexibility. So other than that, other than the ownership, potentially being able to spend a little bit more, which I don't think is like what I'm going to use as a disclaimer there is I don't think that spending more guarantees you a goddamn thing because it absolutely doesn't. Case in point, Mets.
Case in point, Cubs.
Next season, Blue Jays. Next week, we're doing our first half recap of the Brewers and our second half recalibration. And I went back and looked at my bold predictions, and one of my bold predictions is that the Brewers were going to have a better record than 13 teams who spent more money than they did. And right now, 12 out of 13 look pretty good. The Braves are really the only one that's close, even.
Yep.
So front office is great, and the pitching lab is absolutely in a position of blind trust.
Yeah.
There's not a situation where the Brewers acquire a pitcher, and I'm going to be like, no. Brewers are acquiring a pitcher. They know what the fuck they're doing. Blind trust when it comes to pitchers.
Yep.
And you made the point of Matt Arnold being the best GM in the state, and I don't think there's anything that would be able to make that a disagreeable point.
No.
Team identity. Where do you stand with team identity in the Brewers?
I have this at a 9 because I was like, I can't just have everything at 10, even though everything for the Brewers is going well right now. But when you have the two-time back-to-back manager of the year, and you have great leadership from your veteran players, Contreras, Yelich, I mean, those guys they've been there, done that. Brandon Woodruff is a guy who's been there, done that, and showed the ropes to the young pitchers. I don't think a 9 is even high enough. But like I said, I can't have everything be a 10. But this team they're a brotherhood. And I think it was Jake Bowers recently that did an interview after the game, and he talked about how, and it was with Kurt Hogg, I believe, and he talked about how there's no egos on this team. Nobody looks at the other guys like, oh, I'm way better than this guy. Why is this guy playing over me? Like, they all have one goal in mind, and when you have 26 guys going towards the same goal, and a guy like Pat Murphy, who's just so relatable to the players, he's got that perfect mix of old school and new school. He's a funny guy. He's like the cool grandpa. I don't think that you can have a better mix of talent with how they're stirring this, the chemical, how they're stirring it. So the Brewers for me are a 9 for team identity.
This one I do have a 10, actually.
Oh.
Thinking back to 2024 when Pat Murphy's doing an interview, and the interview gets to a point where he's talking about the Brewers' success, and he says it's about people. We've talked about it 100 times on our show that the way that you win as a small market compared to the big markets is with people. That's your biggest advantage when it comes to Milwaukee. It's not because it's going to be beautiful weather here year round. It's not because there's going to be celebrities walking around all over the place. It's because of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So with the team identity being about people, you mentioned Yelich, Woodruff, those kind of guys. Christian Yelich rode to the doubleheader with the coaches the other day. Actually, that was yesterday during the doubleheader. He rode to the ballpark with the coaches. He played the first game. He told Murphy, "Don't take him out for the second one." Like, Yelich wants to be here for the team. Mm-hmm. That's a leader. That's what a leader does. Like, you listen to the pitchers, the young guys, like listening to Brandon Sproat talking about the influence that Brandon Woodruff has had on him. Like, that stuff is real. That stuff matters.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that is why I did have the Brewers team identity at a 10.
I like it.
Where do you stand on the upside potential / foundational strength with the Brewers?
This one I had a 9/10. You got a guy like Jackson Chourio locked up till 2033 when you start having some club options. The sky's the limit for that guy. You have the number one prospect in all of baseball. The guy's a switch hitter, hits for power from everywhere. Sky's the limit for that guy as well. You got a guy in Contreras, a multiple-time Silver Slugger. I mean, the potential for this team is just silly. I can name all the players. I mean, Andrew Fisher's a guy that just continues every other day. He's having a strikeout and a home run that goes 435 feet, and it comes off the bat 113 miles an hour. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point. And that guy's not even one of the top 100 prospects. That's ridiculous, dude. How lucky are we as Brewers fans right now? I want people to have some gratitude when talking about the Brewers, because we're in the good days. Yeah. They say, tell me when you're in the good days. I wish you knew you were in the good days before you were out of them. We're in the good days, okay? So I want people to appreciate this Brewers era right now, because it is filthy. The potential for this team, upside for this team is just, it's nasty, dude. And I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said it last year that they're setting themselves up to be a dynasty. I could see it. If they go on a run, with say we get a salary cap and they win 3 out of 5, I mean, goddamn, dude. That would be so sick.
I have the Brewers out of 10 here, and we already talked about it. They're on pace to be the best team in franchise history after they were just the best team in franchise history last year.
Yeah.
and they have the number one farm system in baseball.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be any better set up than that.
It's pretty tough.
I mean, outside of having like some mega superstar on your team, which I would argue that Jacob Mizorowski is starting to put himself into that category. I mean, outside of having one on the hitting side too, which, I mean, there's a couple guys that have some potential to get into that superstar territory. And obviously Yelich has been there before, but he isn't now. Outside of that, I don't see how you could potentially be any better set up for your future. Man, where do you stand on roster reliability, the durability, the depth, and the consistency?
The depth is there's two guys that they can't lose. And they'll be hurting if they lose them. In my opinion, it's Mizorowski and Contreras. They lose either one of those guys, they're in for a world of pain. But thankfully for us, those guys seem like freaking horses, and they just want to be out there every single day. And Contreras especially, dude. Like, it almost feels like Murphy has to handcuff him inside the dugout to make sure he doesn't play.
He has to handcuff him to a bat because he's only allowed to DH.
Right. I mean, he was even controlling things in the dugout last night with Churio. I mean, that was just silliness. But I have them at a 7.5 because I'm like, if they lose either of those guys, we're kind of screwed. Every other position, though, they're in a good spot.
Yeah, I put the Brewers at an 8, and I think they are in the future set up really well. I just think right now the left side of the infield does have some depth concerns, just because right now if Joey Ortiz goes down, you're calling up Jet Williams, and then other than that, you're looking at guys that have been in AAA for a long time, or you're looking at prematurely calling up Jesus Mate or Andrew Fisher, and I just don't think the Brewers are prepared to do that right now. Yeah. So the depth on the left side of the infield is a little concerning to me. And that's just kind of where I have the roster reliability aspect. And then the consistency is a little bit out of whack. And this is probably just like over the last month, the recency aspect of it is just the way that they've been with runners in scoring position when we know that they're one of the best teams in the league at that. Mm-hmm. So, you can just say that it's a rough month, but I still have the Brewers at an 8 even still. Mm-hmm. All right. Where do you stand on the fixability of the problems with the Brewers?
They're at an 8 for me. You talked about the left side of the infield. That's what I was thinking about third base when I was thinking about this one for the Brewers. And if they really wanted to, I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, if the Brewers really wanted to, they can go trade for the top third baseman on the trade block right now. They can just be like, hey, we got a deep farm. What do you guys want? We'll have a discussion here. We want this guy. We'll let you, and then we'll talk about what we're willing to give up. They could just go get a good third baseman, a good expensive third baseman if they really wanted to. But that's why I have them at an 8 because they could just fix it right now if they want. Like, they could do it literally this second if they really wanted to, but they don't have to because they just keep winning.
Yeah. For me, I have them at a 6, and it's partially because of that, what you're just talking about. Like, they can go and do this, but I feel pretty strongly that the uncertainty of next season puts them in a really tough spot. I don't envy Matt Arnold for having to try to navigate how 2027 is going to look. If there is anything to look at, that's like we talked about it last week. The future of Major League Baseball for 2027 is pretty bleak as of July 8th, 2026.
Yeah,
we could get to September 8th and things could be completely different. They could be the same, they could be worse. But right now it's pretty ugly when Major League Baseball is putting commercials on MLB TV saying that we should have a floor and a cap. Cannot imagine that the Players Association is a fan of that.
Probably not.
So I really feel like it's going to be a pretty ugly winter when it comes to baseball, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the Bucks, and let's talk Bucks confidence meters now. There's some very, very major changes because there was a player traded. Obviously, Giannis was traded. So we have a 13-year veteran gone, multiple MVP, Finals MVP, championship winner. The last two pieces from the 2021 championship have been traded.
Yep.
We're in a very, very different position with this Milwaukee Bucks team than we were 365 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bucks are honestly, in my opinion, the most interesting team to discuss as far as confidence meters are concerned. So, Jake, where do you stand with how close the Bucks are to contention in the NBA?
I didn't have to put the number this low, but they're obviously, in my opinion, they're not going to win the title, and they're not close to some of the top teams in the East. The East got much better and more parity, in my opinion, this year. So I have the Bucks at a 2 for how close I think they are to contention. They're young. That's totally fine. They're getting some of their draft picks back. Now we can have a discussion because they're creating a ton of cap space for next year. So next offseason could be fun. Now, we don't have a draft pick as of right now.
Right.
But that could all change by the trade deadline, this upcoming season. So maybe they do trade for a first-round pick. I don't know what's going to happen, but they're creating a lot of cap space, so they could have some fun next year. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I have the Bucks at a 3. They're young, they're athletic, and they're going to be fast.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So,
they're going to be fun.
We talked about it again. We talked about it when we talked about the Bucks trading Giannis. Like, I don't care what their record is for the next 2 seasons, to be honest with you. I just want them to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think they will be.
Yeah, I agree. Where do you stand on that perception from last year to this year?
So last year we're all jumping on Giannis's back, and we're like, carry us, big fella. And this year, I think the best number to give them because of no expectations is a 5. Because if they're better than people expect, it's like, oh, hell yeah, dude. Like, I was kind of unsure how this was going to go. But if they're worse than we think they're going to be, it's like, well, I could see that happening as well. But
the rebuild is on.
A 5, I feel like, is a good sweet spot for this answer.
I'm not going to lie to you. I have the Bucks at an 8 for how my perception is from last year to this year, strictly because I am excited for a new opportunity.
Oh, me too.
Because not only is there roster turnover, and we talked about some of the pieces we talked about all of the pieces that the Bucks got in exchange for Giannis.
Yep.
There's no expectations on this team. There are 0 expectations of how many games this team is going to win. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And that's a freeing feeling, honestly. There's a lot of pressure taken off when there's 0 expectations to win 50 games, to make it to the conference finals or at least the second round, and take whoever you're going into the second round against to 7 games or something like that. So with those expectations being gone, I'm excited for the new opportunity. And not only that, is a new coaching staff is part of the perception from last year to this year. I think that there's been essentially nothing but complaining when it came to Doc Rivers' staff. And to be honest, I didn't love the Adrian Griffin hire when it happened. Yeah. My number 1 choice that season for who to hire for the Bucks head coach was Jordi Fernandez, and he's in Brooklyn. And also got an extension this offseason.
Yep.
With Brooklyn. So I think that would have been a much better hire for the Bucks at the time. And then they had to scramble to find somebody who has experience, and that was pretty much Doc Rivers.
Yeah. And now here we are.
He's not here anymore. And not only that, the Bucks went and got arguably the best guy for player development that was on the market.
Yeah.
So that, to me, the roster turnover added to the new coaching staff creates a lot of opportunity that I'm really excited for.
I agree.
So where do you stand on organizational stability, the direction of the franchise, the front office, and the trust in the leadership?
Now, this one I have it at 8. Because, you're talking, and the big thing that I take away from this offseason is the direction of the team. Now, obviously hitting the reset button a little bit, but I think some of these players, and we talked about it like you said, some of these players they got from the Miami Heat are a lot better than people realize.
I agree.
Jaime Jaquez will put you in the rim. Khalil Ware will put you in the rim. He will shoot you in and out of the game, shooting almost 40% from behind the arc as a 7-footer. He can block shots. He's long, run the floor. I mean, Tyler Hero, I don't know if anybody's seen anything about him. He got some leaked text messages about his old buddy Bam there, but he sounds like he's a little motivated. And I don't know about you, but I would never try to piss off a professional athlete who's pretty good at his job.
Yeah, nope.
Especially a guy that can just pull up from 35 at any given time. It sounds like he's pretty happy to be here. So
he's in the lab already.
He is. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like he's happy to be here, be home.
Yeah.
And then we didn't even get to the rookies. I mean, Nate Ahmed is obviously going to be a guy that we have to develop over time. But like you said, Taylor Jenkins is the best player development coach that we could have got. And then Braden Burries. I don't know if anybody's been watching the summer league, but man, he looks like he's ready to go downhill. And then he also can stop on a dime and pull up from three. I mean, the direction of this team went from something like this to something like this, in my opinion, where it's just going straight up. So I like the direction the team's going.
Yeah. I have them at a 7 for this just because of ownership, and I feel like it's possible that I've been influenced by social media a little bit in this aspect. Because when Jimmy Haslam became a part owner, I feel like people use that as an excuse of, oh, this happened. It must have been Haslam's idea. This happened. It must have been Haslam's idea. Oh, Haslam has traded Garrett and Giannis in the same week. Like, this is all Jimmy Haslam's doing. I feel like that is a bit of a cop-out for people. I feel like it's an opportunity for people to be like, oh, well, now there's somebody else to blame because Doc Rivers is gone. I got to have somebody else to blame, so they've latched on to Jimmy Haslam. So I'm a little iffy on that, but again, I feel like it's possible that I'm influenced by social media on that subject. Now, outside of that, as far as the organization is concerned, I think John Horst is doing a great job. I think people were like, oh my God, he's never been good at drafting. He's never had anything but mid to late 20th picks.
Right, dude.
Like what do you expect? Like, they're not all gems. Like, sure, there's maybe some philosophy aspects that you could look at differently. Like, why are you drafting developmental guys versus guys who seem more proven? Sure, there's something to be said there, but expecting them all to be, rotational pieces every single season, I think is just unrealistic. So that, I think John Horst is doing a great job. Even when it comes to trading Giannis, I think he got the best package that was out there. And I like Taylor Jenkins, and I like the staff that they're bringing in so far. Michael, welcome back. Yeah, we're excited for the new era. I mean, we've only seen a few summer league games so far, and only one has been played in by Braden Burries, and Nate Ahmed hasn't played in any yet. And we haven't seen Kasper Strakokonis because he's playing in Europe right now. But
yep.
Jake, where do you stand with the team identity of the Bucks right now?
This one I had at a 6 for this reason only. The players have to buy into Taylor Jenkins for it to go correctly.
Sure.
Now, I can't give an absolute, and we're not those people that give absolutes without having the answers in front of us. So for this, I have it at a 6 because I think that it's going to go well. Like, I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be good, but I'm unsure. There could be egos involved, especially in the NBA. The NBA is the most ego-driven league in the entire world.
I agree.
When talking about all leagues. Egos literally ruin teams that should win and stuff like that. So I have them at a 6.
I have them at a 7, and to me, it points directly at Taylor Jenkins and the staff, kind of like you said.
Yep.
Upside potential / foundational strength. Where do you see the Bucks?
All right, I have them at an 8 because I like a lot of things that they did. I'm gonna say this because I feel like I have to get this off my chest. Kyle Kuzma is better than people realize.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Kyle Kuzma as soon as you said that thing about Doc Rivers, comparing it to Haslam where they needed somebody else to point the finger at. I feel like everybody's doing that to Kuzma. Kuzma is athletic. He's 6'8", 6'9", I don't know. He's a bigger guy, wing, multi-positional. He can handle the rock a little bit. He can go down and finish at the rim. He was actually a pretty good shooter compared to what he was the previous couple seasons with Washington and his half season with the Bucks before that. Kyle Kuzma's a good fucking player, dude.
And he was a pretty good passer last season, too.
I think people saying that about Kyle Kuzma are the people getting influenced by social media.
I could see that. I think people got to watch our show when it comes to, evaluating the performance of some of the players on the Bucks last year.
I think that this is a crazy comparison, but it just popped in my head. I feel like Kyle Kuzma is like Nickelback, or like everybody says that Nickelback sucks, but like Nickelback's actually good. And like you're just saying that because everybody else is saying it.
That a lot of people actually like some of their stuff, but they won't admit it in public.
They won't admit it. I feel like Kyle Kuzma is actually good, dude. And like people are just saying he's bad because everybody says he's bad. I don't know if that's a weird comparison, but that's what I'm going with.
For me, looking at the upside potential and the foundational strength, the foundation is a little wobbly right now, partially because there's 12 guys on here that are under like 22 years old, and we have no idea how they're all going to turn out or how they're all going to fit together, or like Jake said, how they're going to buy in. But Kasper Strakokonis, Khalil Ware, Braden Burries, Nate Ahmet. I mean, Ryan Rollins was arguably a deserving candidate for most improved player last year. Bogoljub Markovic won a Europe League MVP last season. Usman Jeng was a guy we had a lot of fun watching in the second half of last season after the Bucks got him at the trade deadline. Yeah. There is a lot of players that I'm really excited to watch. And if Taylor Jenkins and the staff can make it work, I think, like Jake said, there is an opportunity for this team to be really fun to watch this year.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, where do you stand on the roster reliability, the durability, the depth, and the consistency?
I have been at 8 because they just got players everywhere, and the unknowns make it really, really fun. They have a ton of guards. They brought back both point guards from last season, so I like both those guys. They still have Miles Turner on the roster with Jericho Sims and now Khalil Ware, so the center room is absolutely loaded with talent. A couple guys that can shoot, a couple guys that can jump and dunk on you. I mean, the depth of this team is just absolutely insane compared to 2 years ago when they were old and just trying to figure it out. You know, like, all right, we're on our last leg for a championship. I mean, the Bucks right now almost feel like how the Packers felt after they got rid of Rodgers, and it was Jordan Love's first season. It almost feels like that, honestly.
Yep. Makes complete sense. For me, I put it at a 5, and this one is because of that's, you know, you were talking before of like, if it goes better than you expect, great. If it doesn't, people aren't really expecting anything from you. For me, seeing, you know, the Bucks they're returning a handful of guys from last season. I think there's like 6 guys coming back, and you mentioned Kuzma, Turner, Sims, Rollins, KPJ, and then AJ Green are going to be the guys, you know, the main guys returning. It's going to be different. So, you know, like I said, you know, not every single one of these guys is going to pan out realistically. Like, if we walk down the path of imagining everybody pans out the way that you imagine their ceilings, like the Bucks are going to be a fucking dynasty for the next 7 years, like that would be cool, but
yeah, that would be nice.
Not necessarily the most realistic conversation to have. But I'm at a 5 just because I don't really have any expectations or any thoughts on specifically where the Bucks lie. There's opportunity for them to be durable, deep, and consistent, but I don't know what that's going to look like yet. But I'm excited to find out.
I'm with that.
And then fixability of problems. I'm just going to jump in on this one again, and I have another 5. And the reason I have a Bucks at a 5 and the fixability of their problems is A, they had a lot of problems last year. B, complete roster turnover. And C, the one thing that I will say for the Bucks is that we don't have the guy, like a big, massive star. I will say Tyler Hero has all-star potential. But, I mean, he's creeping into, like, the top 25-ish, 20 to 25-ish best players in the league at his ceiling. So, I mean, the Bucks just don't have a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that that's a problem to have, but, I mean, if you want to win a championship, you have to have a guy who's going to be able to kind of carry you at times and, you know, put the team on his back and, you know, have a finals MVP. And I just don't think the Bucks right now have a guy that is the guy.
Yeah. For me, I have a lot of trust in Taylor Jenkins, and I believe in the young talent that they've brought in this year. So I have them at a 7. Now, obviously, this goes with the 0 expectations, but I think that when a problem occurs, and, you know, say the Bucks have 2 games in a row where they're giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, I trust Taylor Jenkins to be like, all right, fellas, that shit ain't flying with me no more. We're going to box out, and we're going to figure this shit out. And I feel like that he will coach them up and figure out and fix the problem. So that's what I'm looking for this season, is for them to, you know, when they are cast with something that, you know, is difficult for them, I think that they will fix it right away, not like previous seasons that we've seen where it just seems like they were just hitting their head on the wall and they made us want to hit our heads on the wall when we were watching them.
Or where they're changing schemes over and over and over again.
Yeah, that
was a frustrating thing last season, is that Doc Rivers was trying to change the scheme and the guys were like, no, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing.
Honestly, I think that Ryan Rollins is a guy that could, talking about changing schemes and how wobbly the foundation was. I think that Ryan Rollins could absolutely skyrocket and be a guy that's like, whoa, this guy's averaging freaking 27. I think he could be that guy, and he could be a surprise all-star.
Michael said Berries is going to be developing to be that guy.
I can see it, dude. He's got everything, dude.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he was 4 inches taller, he probably would have been a top 5 pick.
Dude, he probably would have been number 1 with the way that he moves.
He's
Christopher at that point.
With a K. Welcome back. All right. So as we're welcoming guys back and we're going into the Badgers, Jake, do you want to do Badgers basketball or Badgers football first?
We just did basketball, so let's stay basketball.
That's fair. Do you say stay with basketball or skip?
Yeah, let's do basketball.
Okay.
Let's do basketball.
Okay. Badgers basketball, confidence meters. Jake, we asked about contention and where we're looking at the Badgers as far as football and basketball go, and we're like, how do we want to do it as like playoffs or ranked teams? So we decided to look at it more so for the Big Ten, because to your point, you were like, how do people talk about college teams? They talk about conference championships and stuff.
Yep.
So we decided to look at it as far as the Big Ten is concerned. So Jake, let's start with Badgers basketball. How close to contention do you think they are in the Big Ten?
I think they're at a 6. I think that Michigan State is crazy good. I feel like Purdue always ends up with some guy that's 7 foot, whatever the hell. And they always have a point guard, so they're always in the mix. Michigan obviously has money, so there's going to be no problem for them getting transfer players. So I think those are the 3 biggest hurdles. And then you think about other teams that could skyrocket. I mean, Nebraska's gotten better over the last couple of years. Iowa's a sneaky good team. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are sneaky good. I mean, in Washington and Oregon are no slouches, in my opinion. UCLA has the prestige, so they're in a good area. They could bring some people. So I have them at a 6.
Yeah, I have them at a 7 for similar reasons. The Big Ten's tough. That's really the only way to cut it. Christopher said Braden Smith was a dog at Purdue. I am so glad that Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are graduated, so they can fucking go away.
It seemed like same thing like when Aaron Kraft was at Ohio State. Like, dude, is this guy in his 18th season?
Yeah, go away. All right. What is your perception from last year to this year for the Badgers basketball team?
They've got a couple big-time recruits, in-state guy and I will say out-of-state guy, but it seems like we pluck about a lot of people out of Minnesota. So they got a top 50 prospect. So I'm actually at a 7. It's going to be an interesting year, and I still trust in Greg Gard. So
yeah, yep, I agree. I also have the Badgers at a 7. There are lots of new pieces, and we'll definitely, as the season gets closer, we'll definitely break those pieces down. Being transfer portal and recruiting guys, the team is going to be a lot different. There's no John Blackwell on this team anymore. That's a huge ball dominant piece gone. Nolan Winter is back, which is great. Very interested to see how the front court shakes out. But there's a lot of new pieces. So I'm at a 7. I'm like, I can't say that I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Or like, oh my God, we lost John Blackwell because he went to Duke because Wisconsin can't do anything. Like I'm in the middle of that. Like I'm not, screaming one way or the other. Organizational stability, the direction of the franchise, the direction of the program, the front office, the trust and the leadership. Where do you stand with the Badgers basketball team on that?
I actually feel pretty good. I have them at a 7. Seems like they got a little bit of money backing up towards the university as of late. They obviously are getting those Culver's patches on the basketball jersey this year, along with football and men's hockey. So getting a little bit of money helps out. So I have them at a 7. Obviously, a lot of that is out of my respect for Greg Gard. I think that he is the most underrated coach in college basketball.
Yeah, I put it at a 7 as well, and I like Greg Gard, and I love his staff with Joe Krabenhoft and Greg Steemsma being on this team. Greg Steemsma is a huge piece of why I feel comfortable with the stability of the Badgers basketball program because of his work in coaching staffs and front offices in the NBA and the ones that he's been associated with being the Boston Celtics and the San Antonio Spurs most recently. Yeah. So for him to have been associated with those coaching staffs and front offices, that's a huge deal for me. The fact that he's back on the Badgers staff since last season, that's huge to me. So that makes me feel very comfortable with where the program is at. Team identity. Where do you stand with the Badgers basketball team identity?
I like the identity. Again, I have a 7. Over the last couple of seasons, they've adopted to more modern basketball. They don't try to just score 50 points. They try to run up the floor. They try to finish at the rim or shoot a lot of 3-pointers, which they've been good at both. But they just needed a little bit more oomph inside. I feel like they needed a guy that either played defense or was able to catch a lob. I've been talking about that for the last couple of years. They need a lob threat guy at the rim. So I think a 7 is a good spot for them because they're going to win ball games. It's just no matter how many.
Yeah. I have them at an 8, and I think the identity switch from 3 years ago when they went from the grind it out, we're going to try to beat you 62-56 to we're going to try to play how they're playing, in the pros and in Europe and adding some recruits to that point. I think that was a much needed change if the Badgers also want to be able to, convince recruits to come here, not just monetarily, but also like, hey, if you want to get to the next level, Wisconsin is an option to help you get there. So that was a big change in identity that I think they needed, and I'm glad it happened. Where do you stand on the upside potential / foundational strength with Badgers basketball?
This one, I have them at a 7 as well. I know it's a lot of 7s, but the Badgers basketball program hasn't been an issue. Now, the tournament, people want to complain about the tournament, and I think that's just silly, honestly. I mean, Duke has, they come into the season every single year, top 5, top 3, number 1. They don't win the title every year. Mm-hmm. That is what March Madness is. And I will say they're tinkering with it, and I don't fucking like it. Do not mess with it. It's just like it's like if the NFL would be like, you know what, Super Bowl Sunday, we're throwing that shit on a Wednesday, dog. Like, what?
I mean, they're already doing it with Christmas.
Yeah, leave it alone, dude. It's good where it's at. The tournament being 68 teams, I feel like is the perfect sweet spot. So the tournament stuff is like, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it does. Obviously, I want to win. But, like, I'm not going to hold it over the head and be like, well, I didn't enjoy any of the season. I didn't enjoy John Blackwell and Nick Boyd going crazy for a 2-month stretch. No. I can't enjoy that because they lost a game in game 1 of the tournament. That doesn't take away from the joy that I felt during the season. So a 7 again because I still think they got good upside. Like I said, they brought in a couple of big-time prospects.
Yep.
Recruits, I should say. So it'll be interesting. Yeah,
I had the 7 for the same reason for the incoming recruits. And just the general toughness of college basketball. Sure, it became quote-unquote legal to give college kids money in recent history, but I don't believe for a singular second that hasn't been happening for decades already.
Now, Michael, that's actually an interesting comment.
Michael said the Super Bowl should be on a Saturday night, same as college championship games, or we should make Super Bowl Sunday a national holiday and then everybody gets Monday off.
See, I'm on board with that, but having it on Saturday is interesting. That's a thought process I never took. I like that.
All right. Badger basketball, roster reliability, the durability, the depth, the consistency. Where do you stand on that with Badger basketball?
I think they're a 5. I don't know if they're not super deep. I feel like they, the last couple of years, obviously. I mean, John Tonje a couple of years ago was Super Bowl dominant with John Blackwell, and then Blackwell and Boyd last year. I mean, you're losing Blackwell, obviously, like you said, going to Duke, and then you lost Tonje and Boyd both going to the NBA. So losing guys that control 90% of the game on the offensive end is going to be a big switch to flip. So it'll be on guard a lot this offseason to get guys ready. But I will say that Zach Kinzinger, I like his size, and he is a good playmaker, kind of his MO and good playmaker, shot maker, shot taker. So I'll see if he takes a jump.
Yeah. Yeah, I have him at a 6, and honestly, mine is like, who's number one? Is it Nolan Winter? Is he going to be your leading scorer? I'm very interested to see how that shakes out, to see what the Badgers look like when it comes time to play games. Like, who's going to take the bull by the horns and be like, hey, like I'm gonna be the guy that goes and gets us a bucket when we need one, or the other team is playing really good defense, or we're in a zone defense. Like, I'm gonna be the guy that takes the lead on that. I want to know who that guy is. Lastly, fixability of problems. 1 being not easy to fix and a structural issue, and 10 being clean and fixable. Where do you stand with Badgers basketball on the fixability of their problems?
I think they're at a 6. I do think that they need to get more out of their wings, and I think they need to get more out of their power forward / center position. Now, Nolan Winter is fine and dandy, but I think he's more of a natural 4, in my opinion. So if you were able to get a center that, that sets hard screens, goes and gets the rebounds, with Nolan Winter, because his ability to go grab an offensive rebound and rebounds in general is fine. I think he was second in the Big Ten in double-doubles last year. I think that would make this roster a little bit better, but they haven't done that yet. So 6 it is.
Yeah, I also put them at a 6, and honestly, for me, the thing that I put on there was that they need to fix the offensive stagnation. They had some problems with that at times last year, where they go like 7 minutes without a field goal. Like, got to feel to fix that up. So the offensive stagnation is the thing that needs to be fixed for me, and that's where I put them at a 6. All right, one more to go, and it's Badgers football. So this one is very interesting to me, and I'll be honest, I do have my lowest grades on here, but I'm still a lot in the middle of this. Badgers football, I'm very, very interested to see, because the money was clearly put there.
Oh, yeah.
This offseason. Clearly put there. So I will be honest with you. I am very wait and see when it comes to the Badgers football team. There's no doubt that they've had the strongest transfer in the recruiting classes that Luke Fickell has ever had.
Yep.
I would say that's pretty long shot clear. But that said, it's still a very lot of wait and see for me. So if we're looking at how close to contention they are, the Big Ten is tough in football. I would say it's tougher in football than it is in basketball.
Yeah. The last 3 national champs.
Football team for how close to contention at a 5. Very in the middle, and I will say they have a much easier schedule than the fucking gauntlet that they had last year.
I did consider the schedule, but I still think that, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Indiana,
Oregon.
Illinois is good, Oregon. There's just Iowa's good. There's a number of teams that are so good in this conference. I have them at a 4.
Okay. Christopher said, I still don't feel like Luke is the answer. Luke with a great value bargain bin might not have been the answer, but Luke with money invested, maybe.
Yeah.
Again, I'm still very wait and see.
And the recruiting class they're bringing in for 27 looks fucking nasty, dude.
Yeah. What is your perception from last year to this year?
I'm at an 8 because holy cow, they couldn't get any lower, honestly. Like I said about the recruiting class is crazy. They got the number 1 safety in the state of Florida. You got and the thing that this was the biggest thing. I should have started with this. I apologize. The biggest thing for me from last year to this year is they have an actual leader on this team, and his name is Mason Posa.
Agree.
Posa is taking everybody by the face mask and saying, listen, this is what's going to happen. If you're not on board, get your goddamn ass off the goddamn bus. And he's not allowing anybody to say they can't do this, do this. Listen, they have a QB, Chris. I don't know if you if you're Patrick Starr and you live under a fucking rock or something, but they have a quarterback now. His name is Colton Joseph. That guy's a baller. But perception last year is an 8 because I think Posa is an absolute dog, and I think that he's not going to accept no for an answer.
Yeah, he definitely feels like an LBU kind of guy.
Yep.
Michael said, I'm hoping for the best, but my view is maybe 500 this year. I think they have much higher upside than just 500.
Let me answer Chris real quick. Yes, Hunter was a good leader, I think it's a little different having your leader be the guy that makes tackles in the middle of the football field as a linebacker than a safety, in my opinion. I think that stuff does matter. Not that I'm trying to discredit Hunter, but having a linebacker be the leader just feels a little bit more natural in football.
He's the guy that's in the middle of the defense.
He calls the plays. He does everything. Like, he's the man. Everybody looks to him every single play to hear the play, and then he calls out the checks. Yeah. He's the guy.
I'm very, very on board with the way that you feel about Mason Posa.
Yes.
And yes, Christopher, as quarterbacks go, like Jake, my perception is also an 8. Not only is the monetary investment clearly there, but Colton Joseph was my number 1 transfer target. Not just my number 1 quarterback target, my number 1 transfer target. Colton Joseph is a dual threat quarterback, the best dual threat quarterback that I think was available in the transfer portal. The Badgers, they added transfers that had interest from like the Texas, the Oregons, like Indiana's. Like, they got recruits, like transfer recruits that other super big teams were interested. It's not like the Badgers were just fighting Oklahoma State like they have been for the last 4 fucking years.
Yeah, right.
Like, who do you want to be peers with? Do you want to be peers with Texas and Indiana and Oregon, or do you want to be peers with Oklahoma State and fucking Stanford and Virginia Tech? Like, no offense to those schools, but I mean, like, who are you trying to be like? Do you want to be a team that's going to be in the college football playoff when it expands to 26 teams in 5 years?
Yeah, right.
Or do you want to be a team that's going to be like, yeah, we're cool with if we're ranked, like once every couple of years and maybe we get into the teens? Like, no, the Badgers want to be a powerhouse football program that puts offensive linemen and linebackers into the NFL like they have, and then running backs as well.
I mean, they spend money like one of those top teams, so we know where they're trying to be.
Yeah. Organizational stability. The direction of the program, the front office, the trust and the leadership. Where do you stand with the Badgers on that?
This is interesting. I like. How am I going to word this? I like what Fickle stands for. I like how he tries to coach a team. I like the things that he talks about doing. The production on the field hasn't matched what I've heard. Obviously, that goes without saying. So I'm not sure how I feel about Luke. I'm one of those people that, like, I still believe. I still think that he has the ability to be a good coach. Now, obviously, people like to say, like, oh, but he had this player and this player and this player. And it's like, yeah, doofus. Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan. He had Kobe and Shaq. He didn't fucking win by himself, you smarty. Good coaches have good players. I don't understand the people's thought. You think they just take every freaking one-star player and turn them into a national championship? Let me tell you, what Kurt Cignetti just did at freaking Indiana is unheard of. That only happens on a fucking video game. He did it in real life. That's crazy.
And it's not common.
That will not happen for a very long time.
Yeah.
They're not sneaking up on anybody anymore. Going into this year, people were like, "Oh, that this."
Yeah.
Bro, it's not happening again. They're not sneaking up on anybody.
Right.
I'm telling you that right freaking now. Ohio State has them circled. Michigan has them circled.
Yep.
They will be full go at those son of bitches, dude.
Yeah.
So for the Badgers, for team identity, I have them at a 6 because I still believe, I still think that they're going to right the ship. And I took the money aspect very heavily into this consideration.
I'll be honest, I have them at a 4, and it's because I want them, like I just ended with organizational stability and saying, like, I want them to be RBU. I want them to be O-line U. I want them to be linebacker U. That's where I want them to be. I want them to have that pride, like, hey, we put Melvin Gordon and James White and Monty Ball and Chris Clement, and like we put a bunch of dudes and Jonathan Taylor into the NFL. Mm-hmm. And Joe Thomas, maybe the best offensive lineman in the history of the NFL, came from Wisconsin. Like the Watt brothers and Jack Sitchie and Leo Chenal, like putting all these dudes in the NFL and being like, Jake Ferguson is from fucking Wisconsin. Like, that's where I want the Badgers football team to be.
I mean, Travis Frederick was a first-round pick as a center, bro. That's how good he was at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy to think about a center. Like, we had the best center in college at one point, and he was a beast. Don't get me wrong. He was a monster when he went to the NFL too. But
And then maybe, if you can put some more tight ends in the NFL like they have too, like Garrett Graham and Owen Daniels, and like I just mentioned, Jake Ferguson. I mean, Travis Beckham was on the Giants for a couple of years, but like those things, like they make you feel good about the team that you're cheering for.
Yeah.
So I want the identity to be back with those things. That's why I have them low.
With it.
All right. Upside potential / foundational strength. I'm just going to level with you. I'm at a 5 on this one just because there's a lot of wait and see on this one. The transfer class looks great. The 2027 recruiting class looks great, but I want to see it on the field.
I put them at a 7 for this one because of the light schedule. I think they're going to win 8 to 9 games this year.
Agree.
And with the recruiting class coming in, if they get themselves into a situation where they can get into a bigger bowl, I'm not going to say that they're going to make the college football playoffs, but like if they can get themselves into a bigger bowl and win that bowl, I think then the ball that they have started to roll, with this 2027 recruiting class, I think it only grows. So
if they're in a situation where they're playing in a bowl game that takes place on New Year's Eve, this season's a success for me.
100%.
Yeah. Roster reliability, same thing. I'm at a 5. I need to see it.
I'm at a 5 for this one because of the 2027 recruiting class, which I am excited for, which I keep talking about, is not on the team right now. So right now what they got is they brought in some good transfers like we've been talking about, but, being at a 5, we've seen it happen when we bring a quarterback in, we're all excited about it, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt in the third week. It's just like, Jesus Christ, dude, how many times can this happen to us?
3, apparently. Apparently the answer is 3.
I don't think people understand the pain that Wisconsin fans, like not just Wisconsin football, Wisconsin sports fans have felt with injuries.
Yeah, it's been bad.
I don't think anybody is more injured than we are with superstars.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a conversation or a segment that I want to do, but nor is it a segment that I want to win, but it's been rough. I mean, you look at just the 2 ACL injuries that our team had last year in the Packers.
I'm saying, bro,
and
Giannis,
you look at the Bucks since the championship, the guys that have been hurt on that team, like,
yeah,
I mean,
dude.
Missing Woodruff since 2022 in the playoffs, like it sucks.
And Yelich has been dealing with injuries since since he should have won back-to-back MVPs. I mean, it's just like it's ridiculous, dude.
Yep. All right. Lastly, the fixability of the problems. I have this one again at a 5, just because there's a lot of wait and see. I think this team is a lot different than it was a year ago as far as resources go. And something we didn't mention with basketball or football yet is that there's a new athletic director in town also.
Yeah.
Well, there's a huge transition coming in that aspect as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. So I have the fixability of problems at a 5 also, just because they threw the money at the problem. So, I mean, they added the resources to it. So we'll see if it works.
I'm also at a 5 for the reason of money as well. Like, yeah, you can have a lot of money and you can spend a lot of money. Let's see if they spent their money correctly.
Yeah. Alrighty. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we're going to post these. I'm going to take Jake's numbers, my numbers, and I'm going to put them into the graphics that you showed that we saw on the screen, and I'm going to post them, and we'll let you guys kind of play along and comment along on what you guys think as far as where you feel on all of these things, or if you agree with us, or if you disagree with us, or why you disagree or agree. Like, that's the kind of stuff we want to drive here. Christopher said, I can't believe Jake is only 5'6". I mean, he probably looks like it's standing next to me, but
first of all, Tyler is 6'6". I'm 6'5". People don't believe that for some reason. I don't know why.
Jake's thicker than me though. So
big boy. I'm built like an offensive lineman, dude. Tyler's built like a tight end.
That's valid. So again, we'll post these up. We'll give everybody the opportunity to play along again if you didn't during the show. Kim, thank you. And stay tuned. Again, on the page, we're doing a lot more text-based stuff to get the recaps out there as they're happening, and not just week to week. And that gives us the opportunity to focus on different things. And this week, we didn't have a ton of super specific stuff with any of the teams going on because Bucks Summer League is just getting started, and the Brewers are getting really close to the All-Star break. So we're like, all right, we're going to hit a reset button on where we are with the perception of all 5 teams that we cover. Give everybody a chance to play along and kind of get familiar with where our heads are at as the teams are progressing now that we're in the middle of Brewer season. Packer season's getting close. Bucks Summer League is starting, and then there's going to be a very different look on that team. And then Badgers football is coming up, and then Badgers basketball is going to be not far behind. So, we'll get these posted up. And again, thanks for everybody for tuning in live and for listening if you're going to listen back later. And we will see you guys later. And as always, let us know if there's stuff you want us to talk about.